Today I've come to DZambelis to catch up with Jasper and Angelica to find out more about their CAD/CAM training academy. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today, Jasper.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a bit more about DZambelis.
So we are a family-run business of almost 30 years. It was founded by my parents, Dimitri and Stella, with obviously my father having been a stonemason. Of course, my grandfather, his father was a stonemason. So it's really a generation of stonemasons. And as I'm sure everyone sort of knows, we cover CNC tooling, machinery, general tooling, and then of course also now cover the training that comes along with CAD/CAM softwares for CNC machinery.
Okay, so you've touched on it then. We're here today to discuss the training academy. How did it come about?
It was a very natural process. We found that when selling and helping people with the machines that they bought from us, that there was a general feedback that the training that has been received lacked. It almost wasn't covering all bases, or it needed a bit more of a robustness. So after a couple of trips to Italy, speaking to manufacturers, the software houses, we found that we can really fill that gap of knowledge to sort of round up the people who are getting their training so they're fully utilizing the machine. And that's why we extended it as more of an offering to the new machines that we sell. And it just sort of took momentum from there, really.
So how long has the training academy been open for? Officially, unofficially?
There's a bit of a blur in the line, if I'm honest with you. It's something that I think would be around sort of the last 6 years. It's definitely something that we started looking at in 2020. I think COVID sort of accelerated that process, and we had to really develop it to include all the different types of training sessions. And I think really as the requirement for the types of machines that were being sold and what we were finding in terms of what customers were asking for, that's when really the training academy was sort of taking its fullest form.
So did you find that during COVID, obviously, it was one of those things where you were actually providing training, like you said, over like Zoom, doing meetings like that, and actually giving customers the chance to learn about their machines when you couldn't be there with them to then teach them?
Exactly. I distinctly remember during COVID, we had a water jet installation. And to provide the training, it was in sort of the first couple of months. So you can imagine that we were sort of planted in a situation where we knew we had to offer our customer what we'd told them we were going to get. But obviously we had to find this new way of doing it. And so we found the way of doing it and thought, we can make this work. And so it just became a sort of rinse and repeat almost, adapting it slowly, and then also then being able to eventually utilize our own space for when you do need that moment for it to be in person. But COVID absolutely, I think, kick-started how we do our training.
This isn't something that most companies would offer. Obviously, it's something you have developed in-house, and it's something that you offer to both customers old and new. How has this been received by all of your customers?
It's been received really well. I think there was a general bad habit, so to call it, where customers were under the impression that their 3 or 5 day training would help them fully utilize a 5, 6, 7 axis CNC machine without fully understanding that the training offered is incredibly restricted when you try to tie it so much into an installation. So it was us trying to really almost break the mold to say, if you were going for a driving test, or if say you were doing any other form of training, you would not be expected to learn and then almost have to work independently. There is a progression to it. There's in-house, off-site training. There's a whole program to it that I think we had to fully develop. So that way it removes the financial pressure from any sort of company, because you've got the financial pressure that you've just bought a new machine, you then have that financial pressure that you need to see that machine produce and give you return in investment.
Yeah.
But you don't have the knowledge or the capability to take on those more complicated jobs that have the profitability to then make the machine pay for itself in 3-6 months. If you're just doing the same old work, then you're forever restricted. And then you're forced to obviously fly to another country, pay a lot of money for the training, and all of that creates more and more pressure and more restriction.
So are you finding that the training academy is expanding beyond your customers? So as an example, customers that have purchased machines elsewhere, and the training given has either been a bit too basic or they've not been given training at all?
Absolutely. I would say that since opening the academy, and even previous to actually having the physical academy space and the academy existed, we've had our open events, different shows, and we've had so many inquiries coming from people that basically had a machine, maybe if it was secondhand, and obviously have had no prior training. So of course they are completely in the dark. They've just landed with this machine and say, how do I make it work? And also the fact that if it's utilizing DTX software and say it's from a different manufacturer of machinery, we can offer them the training to at least say, well, this is how you can at least kickstart making this machine work for you. A lot of customers we found had sort of been left in the dark almost because of COVID, because of course ourselves and everyone else were all getting machines since COVID. But of course, there was a massive restriction in movement of people. So it meant that people were receiving machines, but didn't have the full training that they were expecting or entitled to. So there was a massive backlog of inquiries of people saying, finally, here's someone who can actually show me how my machine's going to work just beyond the basics of cutting and drilling. Let's actually see what this machine can do. So it's been a massive pool of inquiries from all different parts of the industry, all different types of machinery. People saying, finally, here's someone who can actually answer my question, who's in the UK.
Joining the company as a younger generation, is the technology aspect something that you wanted to really push, or is it something that as both stone and technology are evolving, you're naturally obviously heading that way?
Technology has always driven, I think, many industries, but particularly in the last couple of years, I think the stone industry especially. As a person of a younger generation, absolutely, you know, I grew up with technology. I've seen how it can be utilized for good or bad, and it's become a part of all of our daily lives. So why, of course, would it not be incorporated in our work? And of course, COVID demonstrated how much it can really change the landscape of how we all work. So with that in mind, we wanted to apply it into an industry that is physically demanding. It's strenuous. So you're going to have people going to work who are operating machinery, who want to basically remove themselves and take off that pressure that that work gives you. So of course, by teaching them how to utilize software, it breaks up the day almost a little bit. You can be in the factory, but then you can also be in a place that is a little bit warmer, and you can just be in front of a computer, PC, and do some drawing, but you're still being productive. It's not to say that a stonemason is a stonemason because they know how to hold some power tools and polishing discs. It's so much more than that, or to press some buttons on a machine. There is this pool of knowledge within stonemasons that had to be extracted from them. And that is what we were a part of. We were saying, let's take these stonemasons, extract their knowledge and put it into a software and make the marriage of software and stonemason, the two brains, combined together.
So here at Zambelis, you offer training on the machine before the customer even takes delivery. What made you decide to take that route?
It's to sort of spread that dauntingness, honestly, because if you're getting a piece of machinery and you're being told, okay, your training is going to be during installation, you've already got the pressure that you've got a 2, 3, 5-ton machine arriving. It's already exhausting by the fact you've had to prepare your factory for it. So you don't want to then say, right, okay, now I'm going to teach you all your software and you have to remember it, and off I go. So by doing it in a staggered approach, not only do you understand the type of person you're training, they also feel more comfortable to ask questions. You can also look at how they're reacting to the training you're giving you. So you can then recap. You do it in a staggered approach. So even when you're doing that final bit of training on site during the installation, You already know the expectation of your customer. You already know what ticks them, what they're struggling with. So you can do a recap. And so it just basically, it gives more value for money when you're buying a piece of machinery, because you're going to basically see your training come to fruition. And it means that when that machine is there, as soon as it's finished, you're off, you go. You don't have to have this back and forth of, what did you say again? I don't remember how that worked. It's a natural progression.
Do you find that customers prefer the in-house training or the on-site training? Do you find there's a real difference between customers that have got pre-existing machines and where they want the training to take place?
There is definitely, as a starting point, a clear preference on in-house training, specifically in this academy, because you're away from the distractions of a factory. If I'm trying to give you some information on a CAD/CAM software and there's a crane moving, a saw cutting next to you, how are you going to be able to concentrate enough to really take in the information? As a first point, in-house, absolutely. When I have existing customers, I find the same thing. It's useful to be here, but of course, sometimes when you really, really want to, say you have a particular job that you really are struggling with, and you need to see the job physically working, then of course, our team will instantly come out and see you and say, yes, of course, let's cut together, let's work together, let's profile, let's do this kind of work that you want to do. But I'm teaching at the same time. Some people learn in different ways. If you're a physical learner and you need to see the results of your learning, then us fabricating the stone with you, it puts it into practice. It's tangible. Some people don't react the same way if I bring them here. So it depends person to person. That's why we offer both.
Final question for you. There's a leading voice in the industry. What's the next step for DZambelis?
We want to look at offering training to different members of companies. So, for example, trying to build this relationship between designers and stonemasons. So that way, if designers understand the mechanics of fabricating, that means that when they go to their end customers, they can fully see, this is how we design it. This is maybe some limitations. To then sort of marry that relationship together between them. And also DDX has a software called PowerTop, which is a new templating software where after you've done your template, you can actually design, like you see with kitchen cupboards, a mock-up of your kitchen. And then that gets exported straight into the EasyZone software, goes straight into the machine after you've obviously processed it, and it streamlines the process. So if a designer understands how to design, template, produce, it means that they can then finish off the full step. So it means that that process becomes so much more streamlined for people. Of course, that's one aspect in terms of software. For tooling, of course, we're looking at all different types of ways we can process types of stone and basically expand our offerings into whether it be CNC tooling or blades, for example, looking at all the different types of efficiencies and effectiveness of our products. And then, of course, with machinery, we are continuing to look at building machines that are specific for the UK market, whether that be the DigiMill, for example, or for example, the Area 5 Advanced. Looking at basically continuing to be promoting and pushing our products for the industry, but doing it so it's specific to this country.
Thank you so much for your time today, Jasper. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for taking the time out to speak to us today, Angelica. We've spoken to Jasper, but why did you choose the DDX EasyStone software?
It's in the name, it's easy. So when we first looked at it, it's very user-friendly. Anybody who was currently using it had nothing but good things to say about it. But we also found with other software companies, they're not very specific to stone. So it was like people who do architecture, electricians, everybody uses it. Whereas EasyStone, it's just for stone. It's a lot more, there's less buttons involved, less confusion about what does what. It also has a 3D capability as well. So it's not just for kitchen worktops. It literally goes from one end of the spectrum to the other. You can make statues and things like that on it. And it's all in the same software. So the only limitation, let's say, when you have a machine that can do all singing or dances is, can you draw it? Can you program it? That's it.
And that's where Zambelis comes in, to be able to teach people to utilise the software and the machine to then produce all these big, wonderful things.
Exactly, because then you end up with people who they've got to a certain point with their machine and they just need to take that one step further to actually use it to 100% of its capability. And that's probably the most frustrating thing, is when you're sitting there, you know it can do more, but you just need that hand to help you get to that point where you can learn more and just add to the knowledge you already have.
Do you find that customers then are only using sort of, 20, 30, 40% of the machine's usage and not realising its capabilities?
Definitely. Basically, even with customers that, not even just our customers themselves on the machines that we sell, but even customers who have other machines were knocking on our doors, especially during COVID, and saying, listen, you provide Easy Stone training, we need it on our machines. So you had complete beginners, you had people who had been on their machines for years, and like we said, just needed that extra push to be able to use it more. We do it over Zoom. We do it in-house in our academy at DZambelis, but also we provide it on their site as well.
I feel like we may have already almost touched on this, but are you finding that your existing customers, they're coming back to you to really utilise the training academy?
Definitely, which is really great. They're almost like, yes, you're excited to teach people who have never seen something like this before, or they're learning it, but also the legacy customers is great because they come back and it's always really fulfilling to see them, like we said earlier, they've been using their machine maybe 50% capability of what it can actually do. They come back and then the only thing you can see especially when they're here, they're just so excited. They say, right, I'm ready to go back now. Because the thing is, what we have to remember is that not everybody wants to learn how to do a shower tray straight away. Say if we're taking it down to basics, their every day is making a kitchen.
Yeah.
So why do they need to suddenly focus on learning everything 100% from the get-go? Learn what brings the money in, 100%, and then you're confident on your machine to then learn something a little bit more like your recesses, your shower trays, profiling, everything else the machine will does that. Not necessarily you needed it from the get-go. It also then means people, when they're buying, say, a new machine, they're not sitting there like, oh my God, it can do so much more. Maybe I need to look at another machine that can do less because I'm never going to use it. It also opens the doors for them to see, right, this is what I do now as a company, but I can see myself doing lettering and gravestones if they're doing just kitchens for now. Like, it opens doors for them as well to expand their business and what the future can do for them.
Here at Zambelis, you provide a fully comprehensive support service. Are you finding that more of your customers are able to troubleshoot their own issues because of the training you're providing?
By offering our comprehensive support, it means that people are building that confidence on their machines, on the software. When they have a problem, we're there to call them, message, email, however they find it easiest to basically get in touch. And we're there until their problem is resolved. And like I said, we can send them videos and stuff. So if the problem is something that doesn't happen every time, but once a month, they've got something they can fall back on to refresh their memory to basically make sure it doesn't happen again. And you do find then, like, slowly the phone calls and things become less because they're on their own in a way. They've just blossomed.
Are refresher courses something that you guys offer?
Definitely. As we say, people have not been using their machines fully, so it's always good for them to come back and learn more. We do sort of a mixture, so we have monthly academy dates that people can just come, learn the basics. If they're like a new operator, say, that way the machine is working in their factory with their existing operator, so nothing's slowing down on the work side, but they've got a new operator up and ready, so he learns the basics, goes there, learns all the advanced stuff. Also, we do more bespoke training sessions or private ones, so it's not a mixed group if you don't want to be with other customers. That way we can tailor make the training as to what you do. And as we said before, like, you might not necessarily need all of the 3D work in the first year, but after that year you're ready to expand into that region, then you just come back whenever you're ready, and it goes more at the pace of the customer and what they want rather than what is expected. It's where we also say about the stress of it. So we, with our machines as DZambelis, when we sell a machine, the first year, you don't get charged for any of that training. So if you want, you can come back at any point and learn the next step as many times as you want.
Having a chat with Dimitri earlier, he was saying, obviously, you are very much the face of the academy. It's yourself that does the training, provides it, and you know the machines inside out. A bit of a loaded question. Obviously, you are a WINS Women in Natural Stone ambassador. Do you feel you know, almost proud that you are a woman in the natural stone industry that is then leading the way, and it is yourself that is training up people.
No, it is great, because when I go to these WINS events as well, it's lovely to see more and more operators are coming about, and they are women. When I was younger, it was daunting, not gonna lie, to be in. It's such a male-orientated industry, and there's no two ways about it. But there are a lot of us in the industry that we're not just obviously sat on a desk. And I tell you what, the look I sometimes get when you've just had a mechanical engineer covered in grease, he's put the machine in there, and then suddenly you get me, your software technician and basically assistants training, rocking up, toolbox in hand, pink high vis, and they're looking like, are you meant to be here? And you're just like, yeah, no, I'm your machine, the new machine you just got. Yeah, that's me. I have to go and tell it so it knows where it has to go, what it has to do. And I just want to make more of me, like get more women out there who maybe not necessarily just doing the teaching, but just doing the operating as well. I mean, why not?
Thank you, Angelica, for taking the time out to talk to us today, and thanks to Jasper as well.
Thanks for having us as well.